This is Ringler Radio, where you get all the latest news and information about settlement solutions, litigation, mediation, and structured financial security from Ringler, the largest and most experienced company of settlement consultants in the United States. Ringler has been helping injured people and their families since 1975. Ringler Radio is made possible in part by American General, Liberty Mutual, MetLife, Mutual of Omaha, New York Life, Pacific Life, and Prudential. Now join Ringler Radio host Larry Cohen.
Well, hello and welcome to Ringler Radio, everyone. I'm your host, Larry Cohen, and we're certainly glad you could join us again today. Well, last week, Hurricane Florence came barreling on shore in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia, leaving at least 41 people dead and massive property devastation in its path. For those who are suffering in its aftermath, especially from widespread flooding, the thought of getting legal assistance is certainly daunting. To help during this crisis, the American Bar Association's Young Lawyers Division, working with FEMA, have created the Disaster Legal Services Program to provide immediate temporary legal assistance to disaster survivors, and all at no charge. So today on Ringler Radio, we're going to explore this important program. And joining me as my co-host to do that is my friend and Ringler colleague, Kevin Caple, from our Charlotte, North Carolina office. So with that, Kevin, welcome to the show. Awful glad you're here. And of course, being in Charlotte, I think you're a little bit lucky when Florence hit home.
We were, Larry. Thanks for having me. Yes, the impact of the storm was pretty minimal in Charlotte compared to the eastern part of the state.
Terrific. And of course, also joining us today are two very important people in the American Bar Association's Young Lawyers Disaster Legal Services Program, which is a joint venture with FEMA. We have attorney Dan Wade, the coordinator of the program, and Alia Graham, the program specialist who manages day-to-day operations. So welcome to both of you, and thanks for joining us during what I know is a busy time for you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Terrific. I'm glad you're here. And let me start with you, Dan. In the face of such devastation, why don't you talk about how your Young Lawyers group teams up and coordinates with FEMA and the Red Cross to help survivors with legal services? It sounds like the ultimate quick response team, and I'm sure it requires a lot of coordination. Tell us about all of that.
Sure, Larry. So the program is a memorandum of understanding between the Young Lawyers Division and FEMA, and the idea is that when the president declares a disaster and authorizes individual assistance, they ask us to implement a disaster hotline. Our goal is to get it up and running within 24 to 48 hours of the declaration. And what we do is we work with state and local partners in the affected area to stand up the hotline, recruit volunteers, and basically give people a one-stop shop for legal assistance related to the disasters. Sometimes it goes really well, and that is a great credit to the state and local partners and the disaster planning that goes into putting up the hotlines.
Terrific.
Leah, I'm in Charlotte, and we've seen such destruction, especially in the eastern part of the state. What situations are you seeing in the immediate aftermath of the storm?
Well, fortunately, I'm not in your area, so I can't say that I've visually seen anything. Generally, my role comes in far after the survival mode and also the food and shelter mode. We're usually brought in at the tail end of it, and then I work with those partners that Dan spoke of to make sure that they receive the proper payments from FEMA, to establish the hotline, to hire and payroll or salary any intake staff and supplies and stuff like that. So fortunately, I'm not able to actually visually see what's going on out there. Mm-hmm. This is one of the disaster areas that I fortunately haven't had to visit. So
I understand. You don't go physically to all the areas, but you're certainly coordinating from your location. Dan, what are some of the legal issues that have impacted residents, and what are they facing long term? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so as Alia mentioned, one of the issues is getting FEMA benefits paid. It's sort of like a simplified insurance claim where survivors substantiate that they have loss that isn't covered from another source, and they're able to get assistance up to $34,000 per individual for disaster-related expenses, personal property replacement, or repairs to their home. Other issues are insurance-related, claim disputes. The insurance process can be long and complicated for people, so having some help there. Contractor disputes, price gouging, housing, landlord-tenant. There's all kinds of issues that come up, and some of them fall in the sort of traditional legal aid model, and some of them don't. So the program really strives to serve a broad cross-section and to recruit volunteers and partner with organizations such that we can try to help people with the range of issues that they'll face.
Mm-hmm.
And we know you've assisted with the recovery efforts following Sandy, Superstorm Sandy, flooding and wildfires in Colorado, flooding in South Carolina, Louisiana, Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, Maria.
Wow.
What do the Florence storm survivors need to know about the help that's available to them?
Well, this is a good opportunity to plug the hotlines. So in North Carolina, the hotline number, which is available on the Disaster Legal Services homepage, which is a quick Google Disaster Legal Services, the first result will get you to our homepage. But the North Carolina number is 1-833-242-3549. And the hotline for South Carolina is 1-877-797-2227. We have those numbers listed on the website and press releases. So the first thing is for people to know that they can call that number and they can get some help. The help will range anywhere from direction to resources. Some questions can be answered over the phone. And then if it's a real issue that requires an attorney, then we have the ability to pair up volunteers with survivors. Some of the cases will go to the traditional legal services providers, so South Carolina Legal Services and North Carolina Legal Aid. Sometimes they will go through the State Bar of South Carolina and North Carolina to private practice volunteer lawyers. A lot of big law firms and others will have volunteers who can help people. And so, there's a lot of resources there, but I encourage folks to check out the website, check out the press releases and the hotlines, and you can also find information there about where the FEMA disaster recovery centers are near you. So those are opportunities where you can go in face-to-face and talk with FEMA staff and talk with the volunteer lawyers.
Well, that's terrific. The resources are there, and obviously it's always the execution. That's what it comes down to. All of those storms that Kevin mentioned that you've been involved in, it is a daunting task you have, and I'm not a weatherman, but I know that more hurricanes are coming, more disasters are coming, so you guys are going to be, I think you're going to be fairly busy for quite some time. Well, let's take a quick break right now, and we'll be back in a minute right here on Ringler Radio to discuss this important discussion we're having with Dan and Alia, and we'll be right back.
This is Ringler Radio, brought to you from Ringler, the nation's leading provider of fair settlement solutions. Did you know that Ringler is involved in a third of all structured settlement cases in the country? Ringler advisors work with all the parties in a lawsuit settlement to find the best possible financial solution for the people involved. Everybody wins. There's a Ringler consultant in all the major cities of the U.S. No one has more experienced experts in the settlement business than Ringler. Check out our website at www.ringlerassociates.com for the best information for injured parties, attorneys, and claims professionals to find the Ringler advisor nearest you. When it's your interests at stake in a lawsuit settlement, you want only the best, most objective financial plan. You can count on Ringler advisors to create a customized plan that meets the financial needs of you and your family for the future. Visit ringlerassociates.com to learn more.
Well, welcome back to Ringler Radio. I'm your host, Larry Cohen, along with my Ringler co-host, Kevin Caple, from our Charlotte, North Carolina office, and our special guests, Attorney Dan Wade and Alia Graham from the ABA's Young Lawyers Division Disaster Legal Services. Well, Alia, how can law firms or attorneys in the affected area, get involved with assisting survivors and other disaster efforts after Florence? How do the lawyers get involved that can really help the situation down there for the people who have been affected?
Well, generally, we ask that you contact your state bar and sign up to become a legal attorney to help out with the survivors there. There is not, unfortunately, a formal process through the ABA. We basically gear them to the legal aid agencies and ask them to sign up through that because there is where they will be matched with the survivors of each disaster. And then the attorney would have to contact the survivor and then work individually to resolve any issues that they may have.
Dan and Alia, what have you both taken away from working and helping disaster survivors over the years?
Well, I will say that the greatest maxim that I've heard is that recovering from a disaster is a marathon, not a sprint. I find that to be exceedingly true. Having helped people through long, complex insurance claims and spent a lot of time in disaster areas, I truly believe that it is something that requires a lot of stamina, but there's a lot of help available, thankfully, for folks to get through it. There's a lot of complicated decisions to make. There's a lot of people that will be involved in your recovery. And so I think people just have to kind of go into it, even if your perspective is generally to, finish something and get it all buttoned up and move on to the next thing. Disaster recovery doesn't really work that way. And so you have to approach it with caution and with patience and know that it's a long haul, but we're here to help.
I would just say the probably most rewarding part of it is educating people. The majority of the work that we do are for low-income families who just don't have the knowledge to know what their rights are. And I think exposing them to what benefits or what rights they have is just beneficial for everybody. That would be the hugest or the biggest takeaway that I would have from the program as a whole. But it's been great. It's been great. Thankfully, I haven't had to be active in a disaster and trying to do the work of a disaster as well. Like some of our members in South Carolina, they are residents there, and they're still volunteering to help. So, and North Carolina as well. So,
yeah,
that's just the most rewarding thing, helping people who don't understand what their rights might be.
We all witnessed Hurricane Harvey and how they call it the local Navy, all the people getting in their boats and trying to help everybody survive, and certainly it's happening down in South Carolina too. It makes you feel good about the country and that people are helping people like that. And the other thing, of course, when you have such flooding that occurs, I'm assuming that one of the big problems is a lot of people don't have flood insurance, and just educating people into the concept of flood insurance and how it might help them in the future. Is that something your organization does as well in terms of offering that kind of legal advice?
Sure. So that, definitely disaster preparedness is a huge thing, and it's something that we can all think about because wherever you live, you always have the risk of a disaster. I'm here in San Francisco, where only about 12% of the city has earthquake insurance, which are similar to the flood insurance statistics you have in a lot of places. So certainly I think that education component is really important. There's an organization that the ABA works with called United Policyholders that does a lot of consumer education and advocacy around insurance. They've got a lot of great stuff on their website about that. But yeah, absolutely. I think that the messaging about the importance of disaster preparedness has to include an insurance component because, like I said before, $34,000 is the max award that you're going to get from FEMA. So unless there are other sources where you're able to get charitable aid, that's not going to fix your house if you have a significant issue.
No question. And You've seen so much hardship there, and I think all of us look to you folks, not just FEMA generally and your organization of young lawyers that are helping and coordinating with them, but just everybody chipping in to try to help these people who are. I'm up in New England, and that's why I always say we live in the best part of the country. We don't face a lot of this hurricane, hailstorms, tornadoes, earthquakes. So we just got a lot of snow, but we can deal with that. So yeah, a lot of people are suffering around the country, and as a country, we all pitch in. We all run down to help them whenever it happens, and you're a real big part of that with legal services, as you do. And if somebody wanted to get in touch with the Young Lawyers Division, I know you have a distress helpline. It's I know it's multilingual and it's got some texting. Why don't you tell us about how it works? Alia, why don't you tell us about that? It sounds like an intriguing feature, and educate our audience about that.
Well, it's exactly what you said it is. We provide this hotline to folks to call in and let us know what their legal issues are. Our goal is to pair them with a experienced attorney who can help them through their legal issues. You can visit our website. We're at www.americanbar.org/YLD. And if you have any questions, you can either contact myself, Dan Wade, who's the Director of Disaster Legal Services, or your state and local bar.
Terrific. And is there a specific, like an 800 number? I know you mentioned one for North Carolina, South Carolina, for Florence, but is there a 800 number that people could call if they feel they want to get involved with your organization when they're in distress?
Well, the American Bar has a website called Free Legal Answers, and that would probably be the best resource for them. Terrific.
Okay, well, with that, I want to thank you both. And if someone wanted to get in touch with either of you, Dan or Alia, because they wanted to learn a little bit more about that, you'd encourage them to go to the website, I'm sure. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Terrific. Okay. And I think that's great.
And our contact information is there.
Great. Why don't you once again repeat the website for the audience?
Again, the website is www.americanbar.org/YLD.
Terrific. And Kevin, if someone wanted to talk to you, how would they do that?
They can reach me at my office number, 800-825-7735, or by email is kcaple@ringlerassociates.com, or through our website, ringlerassociates.com.
Terrific. And if you want to reach any of the Ringler Associates around the country, we have quite a few of them in every major city, go to ringlerassociates.com. It's a great website. It's got a lot of great information about structured settlements and a lot of other things as well. I think we even have pictures of you, Kevin, on that website. It's terrific. And in the meantime, I want to just say that if you want to hear any of the Ringler Radio shows, they're all there on the Ringler website. Or you can hear the shows on ringlerradio.com, LegalTalkNetwork.com, or you can go to iTunes, where you can download and listen at your leisure on your iPhone or iPod as you sit there and relax. And you'll be able to hear Dan and Alia pretty soon when this podcast shows up. So with that, I want to say, Dan and Alia, thank you very much for appearing today. I think it's you're doing great work, yeoman work, God's work, I guess. Thanks again for joining us.
And thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Kevin, thanks for being a great co-host.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Larry.
And for all the rest of you out there, have a great day. And, of course, be safe. We'll be thinking of you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer. Thanks for listening to Ringler Radio, celebrating more than a decade of podcasting and over 2 million listeners. Think of Ringler, the objective settlement advisors with more than 140 consultants in 60 cities nationwide. Visit ringlerassociates.com today.